everybody. It's me. I'm going to do a really short lecture. Right now, it's going to be like 5 minutes maybe, and then we're going to have a little bit longer of one. It'll be like 20 minutes that I'll post on Wednesday, but that's the plan. For this week, I'm going to jump straight into the lecture because I told you it's going to be 5 minutes, so pressure is on. Okay, so far, everything we've been talking about in this unit has been on the rise of dictators and Hitler and Stalin and Mussolini and fascism, but we haven't really actually jumped into the actual war part of it. And so we're going to be getting to that this week. And so that is our plan. And interestingly enough, I would have had you guys all guess if we were in class, but the very first nation to show real aggression after World War I was Japan. So they were the first actors kind of in this whole world stage. What happens is militarists actually take control of Japan in 1929. So World War I ends 1918, 1919. World War II begins in 1939. So this is sort of like in between in this interwar period. You have these really strong military generals that take control of Japan in 1929. And their main focus is creating a Pacific empire. So if I had a map, which would have probably been helpful on this page, you guys know that Japan obviously is an island in the Pacific, but there are tons of other islands and nations in the Pacific, and they wanted to control all of those pretty much. And so the reason is because they wanted resources, they wanted markets to sell their goods, they wanted room for their rising population because they were an island nation. They wanted just to be able to really control that area. They included in their desire for a Pacific empire, they included conquering China. As a major part of that. And a lot of that was because of this, the desire for resources and the desire for markets. So it seems interesting to think about Japan, a small island nation taking over all of China. But as you guys know, China had been weakened from the Opium Wars and the spheres of influence by all these European nations. And so Japan saw weakness and they wanted to get in on the action. So Japan actually, in the kind of first step of aggression, they actually invade Manchuria. So Manchuria is an area in China. They invade Manchuria in 1931. So the militarists that took over, the world wasn't really paying attention to that so much, but when they actually invaded another country, in 1931, the world really starts to pay attention. If you guys remember, the League of Nations was formed after World War I to try to keep peace in Europe. We're going to be talking about them a lot this week. The League of Nations was supposed to be this organization to keep peace. Japan withdraws from the League of Nations in 1933. And oh, what did we get? You guys, sorry, I'm going to pause this and my lecture might be longer because look at this cutie that just showed up. Danny, say hi.
Hi.
It's so windy outside, and so she has on her jacket and her hair looks crazy, but anyway. Okay, I'm going to try to keep lecturing. Okay, so they withdraw from the League of Nations because they're like, we don't have any interest in keeping peace. We have interest in making war and taking over, pretty much. The reason that they decide to invade Manchuria first is because it was very rich in iron and coal. And if you think about it, if you're trying to wage war, iron and coal are two very important resources to have. And so that was their reasoning for invading Manchuria. So the next step, kind of like the next location that they go to is they decide to invade Nanking. So Nanking, Nanjing, they're both same place, talking about the same location. And here you guys can see there's actual photographic evidence of their kind of arrival into Nanking, another region in China. Even though they are taking over these areas, there's still a lot of guerrilla fighters that are kind of fighting back against this, but they decide to invade Nanking. Now, you guys are going to be, for your assignment, reading two different textbooks. One of the textbooks was written by the Chinese government, or by a Chinese publisher. The other was written by a Japanese publisher. You guys are going to be taking a look at both of them and trying to figure out which country wrote which textbook. However, I will tell you guys, the Japanese actions in Nanking were incredibly aggressive. And one of the interesting things about Japan is they actually documented a lot of the violence. And so, for whatever reason, they actually have photographic evidence of what they were doing in Nanking. So, if you guys do not want to see terrible pictures, then stop the lecture here. You have all the information you need. If you guys are interested in seeing what Japan did and what they openly documented and what the rest of the world saw, then here you go. So the Japanese soldiers, they beheaded, they raped, they stripped people of their clothes, they shot point blank, and all along the way they documented all of it. So this is just the beginning of the aggression, and the League of Nations, which is supposed to keep peace and punish countries that don't, the question is, are they going to do anything about it? But you guys have your assignment for the week, which is to look at for today, which is to look at those two documents and decide kind of which country says what about this entire incident. So that's the plan. I'm going to go off of that slide because it's terrible.